Hello and welcome to the Patty Pod Season 3, Episode 11. Today's episode is going to be on the theme of exploration with my good friend Aaron Chase, a friend I know from hockey. Welcome, Aaron, to the podcast.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor.
Yeah, we're sitting here in your home in Brooklyn. It's a rainy day. You're here in Brooklyn, but much of the year you're gone. You travel probably every year, it seems like.
Yeah, I try to make an effort, yeah.
You go on, it seems like, extended trips, more than a week or two. Is that about right?
Certainly in the last 5 years, since I haven't had a job, I've had that luxury to go away for longer trips, yeah. A month or so, really. The last couple of years I've gone away for a good month at a time, yeah.
And when you say you haven't had a job, you freelance, so you can you work for different periods of time and you can take time off, right?
That's right, yeah. I'm a lawyer, and for the last 5 years I've had my own practice doing research and writing for other lawyers, so I can, I basically, I run my own schedule. If I don't want to work for a month, I don't work for a month, so it's easy to plan ahead, and it's easy to take as much time as I want.
Yeah.
There's a sacrifice to be made there. I'm not getting paid if I'm not working.
Sure.
But that is that's a bargain that I'm happy to have struck.
Yeah, and you don't have children.
Yeah.
So that's another kind of time commitment that
it's
you
another
don't
bonus. Have. Yeah. It's another time and
life
and financial bonus.
Yeah. As a childless wonder myself, I know the situation. Yeah. So tell us a little bit. Why don't you give us just like a little list of some of the places that you've gone?
Well, okay, so let's see. The last couple of years, Rebecca, my quote, wife, unquote, and I, last year we went to Algeria for 3 weeks. 3.5 weeks. So that was something really special. And we also went to France and Turkey last year. So we're trying to have some adventures and make the most of our freedom and our ability to do this. The year before that, I went to Moldova for 2 weeks, and then I went to Iraq for 2 weeks. So that was a month of solid travel. And other trips, Rebecca and I went to Lebanon 2019 for a few weeks. And that's kind of the last few years. Other trips we've gone to Italy in there, and let's see, I don't know, we went to Bosnia. I think you went to Bosnia, did you? Or
Croatia.
So we went to Bosnia and Montenegro a few years before that. That's the last few years.
You were telling me you were in sub-Saharan Africa. You met somebody once. You met some Westerners in a camp, and was it Zimbabwe?
Yeah, that story. Congo? That story was Tanzania.
Tanzania.
So I lived in Tanzania in 2005 for a few months. I was working at the United Nations International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, which is based. Well, it no longer exists, but it was based in Arusha, Tanzania. Okay. That was fun. When I was there, that particular story was on safari in Tanzania. But I also on that trip, I got to go to Kenya, Rwanda. And I spent about a month traveling around Ethiopia on that trip too, which was super fun.
So you guys were dealing with cases that came up from the Rwandan genocide and civil war?
Exactly.
Okay. Exactly. But the cases were being held in Zimbabwe? Tanzania. So,
that's it. So the tribunal, the UNICTR, was set up to try high-level figures who were involved in the genocide.
Got it.
So these were all Rwandans who had been captured by UN forces, essentially, and taken into Tanzania, and they were tried there. There were other trials in Rwanda. There were thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of trials in Rwanda for like low-level people who were involved in the genocide, which is a much more efficient way to do it. They tried. I think the Rwandans tried. I think the number is, it may be like 100,000, something like that. They tried them quite quickly, and the high-level trials in Rwanda went on for like a couple of decades, and they only tried, I don't know, a few dozen people. But anyway, that's what I was.
That's what brought you there.
Yeah.
So those are places most Westerners certainly don't travel, or certainly don't live in, and often don't travel to. Some of the places that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Have there been other places that you've traveled where you didn't see many Westerners as well?
Certainly Algeria. There's
Yeah.
not very many. I went to Kyrgyzstan maybe 10 years ago.
Okay.
That was wild. Yeah, sure. There's Westerners everywhere, I would say.
Yeah.
Some more than others.
So
Algeria, though, is a kind of a special place.
Okay.
Hardly anybody goes there.
So talk about Algeria. You brought it up a few times. It seems like it stood out to you.
Well, yeah, and it's also one of my most recent trips. But
yeah,
that there's very little tourism infrastructure there. There's very little, I guess, desire for tourists to go there. There's
surprises me.
Very few tourists there.
It was a French colony for decades.
More than 100 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they never developed a tourism infrastructure or tourism economy?
Yeah, they haven't. It's interesting because they're right next to Morocco,
Right.
which has really thrived on tourism.
Yeah. I was there a few years ago, 2019.
Yeah. So they have a lot of similarities, although you'd never hear a Moroccan or an Algerian say that because I think they kind of hate each other.
Okay.
But so after independence for Algeria in the early 60s, it was like relatively stable for a little while, but then they fought a 10-year-long civil war, really deadly, awful civil war in the like 80s and 90s, and that I think
was along sectarian lines, religious lines?
It was, let's see, that was mostly, it was a, like, secular government fighting a fundamentalist Islamic insurgency.
Gotcha.
But the politics of that are beyond my comprehension.
Gotcha.
But the net result was that for a really long time, for 10 years, Algeria was only in the news and in the public consciousness as like a really awful place.
Yeah.
They were just like massacres all the time. It was
Right.
terrible. It's kind of like the way we think of Syria now. That was
Quote unquote war torn.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Right.
That I am interested in language, as the Patty Pod listeners know. I talk about language a bit, and I do think these things that we don't think too much about, but these common phrases are actually quite important, especially when you're shaping opinion of people that aren't paying close attention. Once you get these tags like war torn, then immediately it just goes into a very specific category to Western ears, or for Western listeners. If I ever heard a nation described that way, I would always think to myself, oh, that's a place I can never go.
Exactly. Right. So for people of my generation, that is, and I mean, you're a few years younger than me, so I'm curious to know if you have the same experience in these countries. But for me, Algeria 100% was that way.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying close attention, but like while the Civil War was going on there, I was let's say a teenager. So I would hear about it just in the news. I wasn't paying a lot of attention, but my instinctive reaction was like, that's an awful place. I'm stay well the hell away from Algeria.
Right.
And I had exactly the same relationship with Lebanon. Because, I mean, man, that civil war in Lebanon, that went on for, 15 years. Around the same period as Algeria, when I was a teenager, roughly, and I would hear all this news constantly about Lebanon.
Yeah.
Lebanon was synonymous in my head with disaster.
Yeah, no, I think it's it's funny because I'm about 10 years younger than most of the guys we play hockey with. And so I'm like, there's certain things that I'm just like have a little bit of a cultural difference with. And one of those, Algeria didn't really cross my screen, but Lebanon did, especially because of the Marine barrack bombings. There was a U.S. Marine barracks that got bombed, and that was big news in the U.S. in a period of kind of otherwise quiet. Like it was the Cold War was just in the background always when I was a kid, but there wasn't a lot of action, overt action. But that was one instance where there was actual like Marine or U.S. Armed Forces deaths, and it made a big it made a big splash in the news. So I remember that. I was thinking like 86, 87 or something like that.
It was 82 actually.
Was it that early?
How old were you in 82?
Well, I was like 4, but I remember it might have been. You're right, because I don't remember like actively hearing it, but I remember kind of hearing that it had happened recently, and it was during Reagan's era, I believe. And it was kind of the first big, large-level American military death, since Korea, or not Korea, since Vietnam, or probably since Vietnam, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And so it made big news. But yeah, that was, in my mind, that was part of the quote-unquote war-torn Middle East. And that, I knew about Lebanon, and I knew about Israel and Palestine, and I knew about Iraq and Iran, because there was war happening, especially in the 80s with Iraq and Iran, and then Lebanon, that situation. So, and then of course the Gulf War of '91. By that age, I was really like old enough to be understanding what war was, and really getting these messages. So, and to this day, we went to Morocco. Kate and I did. And this was in 2019. That was the first time I was outside of the West. And I was like really noticing my automatic response to imagery that I'd only been fed through the media.
Oh, like what? What do you mean?
So just seeing like Arab faces and, Arab men in Arab dress and no Westerners around, I was like immediately kind of on guard, even though I knew that Morocco and Marrakesh especially were very tourist friendly, and that the government, which is a dictatorship, is a kingdom, go to great lengths to make sure that tourists feel comfortable there, and will severely punish anyone who interferes with that amongst their own people. They really do not want to lose that revenue stream. And I kind of knew all that, but still, when we would get off the beaten path a little bit, like for example, we were in Casablanca and there wasn't a great deal to do. It was Eid. We didn't know that we were coming to Casablanca the first day of Eid, so all the shops were closed. And we actually took a car. We had to take like a taxi from the train to our hotel, and it was kind of a long trip. And all of the storefronts were shuttered. They had the garage door thing down, and we were driving, and I was looking in the distance, and I was seeing a few blocks ahead of me fires on the street corners, and there was like the little police kind of fencing that police will put up for parades. Those little things were on their sides, and there were groups of men on the street, and I could see fires, like bonfires, and I was like, what in the hell? Like I thought maybe there was some kind of revolt happening. Because they also had machetes, and then as I got closer, I could see that they were barbecuing. They were slaughtering lamb, like the men from the family would go down to the street corner, and they were slaughtering lamb and then roasting that over this gate over an open fire. So for a moment, and then I would think I could ask my driver. Like he explained it a little bit. This is common at Eid, so like their Christmas, everything's closed. But that, when I see fire and men in Arab dress and then machetes, like I'm immediately, all this imagery that I've been fed has made me think like violence is coming, right?
Tell me about it. So I went to Morocco maybe, 10-ish years ago, and like I remember having some just fantastic roadside barbecue all over the place. So I know exactly what you're talking about there. And I know what you're talking about with the inherent kind of unavoidable, unconscious prejudice that you have especially against dark-skinned Muslim men.
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of conditioned.
Oh,
we're
yeah.
constantly conditioned. And since I don't know really when it started, but frankly, 82 would probably be, a little bit earlier. I think it probably starts with, not that they were Arabs, but they were dark-skinned Muslim men. It probably starts with the Iranian hostage crisis for Americans.
Yeah.
Because, at that, I don't think most Americans gave any thought to dark-skinned Muslim men at all before that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the American media was equating these people with just the worst enemies of America. And if you were exposed to the media in that time, like I was, and especially like the people on our hockey group who are like roughly 10-ish years older than me.
Yeah.
So let's say people who are 60 today, born in the 60s, let's say born in the kind of late 60s. So they would be like teenagers at the time of the hostage crisis. And this is exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah.
They were teenagers. They were consuming this news about the hostage crisis, and it really formed their opinions subconsciously.
Yeah.
I mean, it's happened to everybody, not just these guys. But I'm using them as an example because I had conversations with two of them about Iran yesterday in light of the Israeli attacks on Iran, and they unquestionably, their opinions about Iran were formed in 1979, 1980 as a result of the hostage crisis. And I was, we haven't mentioned this, but I'm from Canada, and Canadians have a different relationship with Iran than Americans do. And fair to say that like everybody in the world has a different perception of Iran than Americans do. I don't think Americans realize that.
No, I don't think so. I didn't realize that really.
Yeah,
You just said it.
Right. So, Americans hate Iran. They kind of just inherently, they know that they hate Iran. Iran wants to destroy us. Iran is the complete opposite of everything that the U.S. stands for, and they just like, they're crazy. Right? If there's one thing you know about the Iranians, it's that their leadership are crazy. You hear that all the time. They're unstable. They're psychopaths. Whatever. That perception, like I said, it's really uniquely American. Americans don't understand that, but if you talk to like Europeans about Iran, like they just don't think that way about Iran.
I've actually heard that Iran is one of the more cosmopolitan nations of the Middle East.
Looks awesome.
It has like their education levels are quite high.
Oh, yeah,
the women's rights are usually greater than others. Not
in some ways.
In some ways, it's been cracked down upon. I guess at maybe in the last 5-10 years, rolled back some, but nevertheless, yes.
Yeah, I mean, like there are women members of parliament, for example, in Iran. It's not unusual, but like it's not a nice place to be a woman these days.
So let's go back to your travels.
Well, so just to follow up on the Iran thing, but that is, or maybe we finished up on it, but it is interesting that like the common theme here is that I think that people's opinions about countries really gets formed based on, this is a new theory I'm developing, but based on the media that they consumed when they were teenagers.
I 100% agree with you, and I experienced it in Morocco.
Yeah,
right. So I'm curious about, did you travel specifically to places like Algeria and Iraq because you wanted to see for yourself if your sort of narrative or your image matched the reality, or was it just you wanted to see it because you had other ideas, or what kind of led you there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that maybe that is part of it. It's certainly with Algeria, I think that was part of it. I mean, even when, so we decided, Rebecca and I decided that we wanted to travel to Algeria. We were kind of sitting around one day right here, and we were thinking about where we would like to travel to. And, like most people, we kind of wanted to travel to the Mediterranean. We traveled to a bunch of places on the Mediterranean before. We wanted to go somewhere interesting. And we literally just looked at a map and we were like, man, there's this huge stretch of the Mediterranean here. Algeria, I mean, it's got an enormous Mediterranean coastline. It's a huge country. It's the biggest country in Africa. I mean, it's just absolutely huge.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Bizarrely, there's some debate about it. You'd think that would be a cut and dried question.
Yeah.
But apparently there is some debate. But it's enormous. And so we started thinking about it, and honestly, whenever I would think about Algeria, I would get this like instant reaction, like, you know, the hairs on my arms would get raised a little bit, my heart would start beating a bit, I'd start sweating a little bit more than usual. And I certainly had that feeling, and that feeling of like fear. And we were talking about it, and we were like, is this crazy? Should we go to, because Rebecca's a little bit younger than me, but she had the same preconceptions about it that I do. And, we spent a lot of time talking about whether it'd be safe. We spent a lot of time like researching it to see if it would be safe. And we ended up deciding to basically like you were saying, like, let's see if it's safe. You know, we felt pretty confident that we would be okay there. Otherwise we wouldn't have gone. But, you know, I honestly didn't know what to expect, and that was certainly part of it. So
it wasn't so much that you read, oh, the shoreline is so beautiful, or oh, you got to go to these sand dunes. There wasn't certain things like that were really drawing you?
No, I wouldn't say that. We didn't go there because we wanted to test the security situation.
Okay.
That was just,
wasn't a field test?
No, that was that's just a side effect. We went there because after just scratching the surface on what there is in Algeria, we were blown away.
Oh, really?
There are Roman ruins there that are just like extraordinary. There are a number of them. They're huge. They're in relatively good shape, and they're empty.
No.
You know, like there are these.
Yeah, I had no idea.
This is incredible. Like these old Roman cities.
Oh, wow.
And you can just walk around them, and there might be like two other people in the whole place. They're like, you know, just enormous places. And the Sahara in the south is just like unworldly. I mean, it's hard to describe. It's so just beautiful and extraordinary and bizarre and vast. I mean, just an incredible place. So that's what drew us there. And then we were excited to like find out if it was a total disaster from a security perspective. Short story long, it was not at all. I mean, I have never felt safer really anywhere. I mean, there was never 1 second that I worried about our security. I mean, people were unbelievably friendly and welcoming and like reassuring. Like there just was never the least issue that I was worried about getting mugged or anything.
Did you land in Algiers?
Yeah, you fly in Algiers.
That's a fairly big city?
Yeah, it's a big city, yeah.
And the ride from the airport's clean and modern and...
I wouldn't go that far. It's an airport. It's not a great airport. We hired a guide to like arrange our travel, and which I think you have to do actually. So he had somebody pick us up from the airport, drive us to the hotel. But like, you know, we walked all over Algiers by ourselves and loved it. I mean,
and that was like Did you get a sense if you were in the nice part of town, or if the whole town was sort of evenly mixed, or how?
You know, some neighborhoods were certainly sketchier than others. But
you just walked out of your hotel and felt fine, and you went near those neighborhoods and felt okay.
Yeah. So we maybe like our first day there, we kind of went for a stroll, and we ended up in this neighborhood that looked. I don't know if it was dangerous. I mean, it looked a little poorer than the others, and what can I say? I'm a little bit prejudiced that way, I guess. I mean, I thought maybe we shouldn't go too deep into this neighborhood. You know, you want to be prudent. Maybe to the extreme. You want to be prudent, maybe to the exclusion of doing things that are perfectly fine, but like shit, we're
That
in
was
Algeria, we don't want to take any chances. So.
I had a very similar experience in Casablanca. Yeah. So we saw the guys, with the machetes doing the thing, and I realized they were just having barbecue. And I'm like, okay, I felt sort of stupid. Like, what a typical Westerner, like naive Westerner overreaction, right? Yeah. And then, but because there was absolutely nothing going on. Even their famous mosque was closed, and our hotel was right by there. So I said, let's just walk. We were in a nice international hotel. It was, they spoke fluent English. It was like a nice looking lobby, whatever. So, but when you I figured the few streets around there were okay, but then we got a little bit deeper into the neighborhood, and there was blocks where there was piles of rubble, like a building had collapsed or been torn down, but nobody took away the rubble because there wasn't enough economic development to build something new. It was poor, and all you saw, the only people you saw were a few little, very nondescript cafes that just looked like kind of every other building. That just happened to have simple plastic picnic tables out front and little those Coca-Cola umbrella that was just standard issue, I guess, by Coke, and they were so poor they just took that, with just men, and they were kind of scowling, that probably is their resting face, is the scowl, but when you're the only whiteys walking around and it's just like there's no even, Moroccan women, it's just like a few groups of Moroccan men smoking and kind of scowling, that's when I was like, let's turn around and go back. And there was nowhere else to go. And it was that moment, it was where I was thinking, am I overreacting? Is this just working class, is this just working class Morocco? Like it would be, I don't know, on the western side of Duluth. Yeah. You're not in any real danger. Yeah. If you're walking around in the evening in the western side of Duluth, it's just blue collar. Like if you don't go looking for trouble, you're not going to really find it, Yeah. Am I like, maybe I was, that's exactly what it was, their version of that. There was no problem. We could have walked around, ordered a Coke and sat down and just chilled. But I had the same thing, and that's why, that's when I was like, is it me or is it okay? You just don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. You still don't know today.
Right.
There's only one way to find out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, but for much of Algiers, you could walk around and not have that feeling. You felt, okay, this is fine. Totally. Everything looks good here. This is like a chill situation. We can easily stroll.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. In the city, totally.
Other Westerners walking around or no?
Rarely. Very, very few. There's a strong link still between Algeria and France. There's a lot of Algerians who live in France. So there are a lot of Algerian people with very strong ties to Algeria who have grown up in France and maybe their families have lived in France for a couple generations and they have intermarried with French people, so kind of hard to tell who's like a Franco-Algerian and who's just a straight up Western tourist. But
gotcha.
There were not a lot.
So you did go to the Sahara as well.
Yeah.
And this guy took you down there?
Well, no, not really. He arranged a tour for us in the Sahara. So we spent I think it was a week on a Jeep tour. Well, it wasn't a Jeep. It was one of those Toyota Hilux pickups that maybe you've seen from the news during the ISIS era. Mm-hmm. So these are the trucks that the ISIS
gunman would sit in the back of.
Exactly. They mount a 50 caliber machine gun.
Yeah, I wonder why those were so popular. Toyota made a killing in the 80s or 90s.
I think they have a strong relationship with. With ISIS at least, but all over that region, they're very popular trucks. I mean, they're great trucks.
Yeah. Maybe ISIS runs ads like the Yankees. The official supplier of ISIS trucks, Toyota. Like W.B. Mason for the Yankees. Anyway.
So we drove around the Sahara for a week.
And this, you were camping at night. You had a tent in the desert.
Yeah, we pitched a tent. And I slept outside of the tent when I could, which was an incredible experience.
Just a sleeping bag and a pillow?
Did I even have a sleeping bag? I think it was like just blankets.
On the sand?
Yeah, but like a lot of blankets. So
Uh-huh.
blankets underneath me and
Uh-huh.
wrapped up.
Uh-huh.
But like sleeping under the stars in this era, that is something else.
And it was not freezing?
It wasn't freezing. One night it was unbelievably windy. It was like what I imagined was a sandstorm. I mean, I was just completely wrapped up in these blankets.
You didn't want to go inside the tent?
I did. I mean, I crossed my mind. Rebecca was sleeping soundly in the tent, but I liked the idea of sleeping out there. And I was like, for me, it was a crazy experience. I woke up in the morning. I was like, I can't believe I like lived through this like crazy sandstorm. And then I went to talk to the Tuareg guys who were guiding us, and they honestly didn't even notice. They're like, yeah, was it windy?
Oh, really? De rigueur.
Yeah.
So tell me, I kind of rushed past, what was it like sleeping under the open sky in the Sahara?
It's gorgeous. I mean, what an experience. I mean, it's just stars and quiet.
Because you're in the middle of nowhere, so there's no light pollution anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
So it's the darkest sky you've seen in your life, probably. I mean, the most star-lit sky.
It would have been. There were definitely a lot of stars, but for some reason, I still don't really understand this. There's quite a lot of humidity in the air there, which you really wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
So there's a general haze a lot of the time, at least when we were there, which was April. There was a haze. I've certainly seen brighter skies, like in Utah, where there's very little humidity.
I mean, brighter from the starlight.
Yeah.
But still pretty dazzling.
Yeah.
And it's like there's, in my mind's eye, nothing interrupting your view to the horizon in any direction.
Just sand dunes. Yeah.
Just sand dunes.
A lot of sand dunes. Yeah, pretty amazing place.
Yeah.
Check it out.
So you get a sense that, you said otherworldly.
Absolutely. I mean, it feels like, it like literally feels like you're on a different planet, specifically Mars.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been to Mars, but I've seen some pictures from the rover.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what it looks like. Just red sand, rocks. It's nuts. I mean, it does not look like any other place you've ever seen on Earth before.
Interesting.
And there's not that many places, I don't think, in the world that you can say that about.
So it sounds like Algeria was an incredible experience. Yeah. Highly recommended. Between the Sahara, the Roman ruins, and the sort of, you found Algiers to be a cosmopolitan, lovely city?
I loved it. Yeah, I loved Algiers. It's got a great vibe. People are so unbelievably friendly. We stopped...
you were there in the summer or the spring?
April, yeah.
So it was warm?
Yeah, it was warm.
So I'm imagining walking around after dinner, strolling peacefully.
Totally.
Is there kind of a sidewalk cafe culture?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Because it looks like France.
Okay.
A lot of it looks like France, like southern France.
Okay.
Marseille. I've never been to Marseille, but I imagine that's what Marseille looks like.
Okay.
But it definitely looks like France. So you're like walking around and you think like, oh my God, this looks just like France, just a little more run down. But there are there's cafes, sidewalk cafes. They have a great, oh my God, Patrick, you would love this. They have an amazing pastry culture. They are so into pastries, both native Algerian pastries and French pastries. They love French pastries and they do them so well. Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah.
So, I mean, every chance I had, I would rope Rebecca into a sidewalk pastry joint and just chow down.
Yeah.
We were out one day, I think it was our second to last day there, and we stopped during the day at lunchtime. We stopped at this little kind of street food joint, just a hole in the wall that was selling what they call pizza carré, which is square pizza, just little pieces of. It's not really pizza, but it's like flatbread with toppings. It's kind of like a pizza, and it's all over the place in Algiers. It's a real staple of Algerian street food, and the guy who sold us the pizza carré just started chatting with us and asking where we're from and whatnot. And he insisted. First of all, he treated us to the pizza, which happened all over the place. But then he insisted on like this. This was in the Kasbah in Algiers, which is like the old city, the old Jewish and Muslim quarter of Algiers. Because in the French colonial period, there was like the French took all of the like what is now the part I was telling you about that looks like France. They took that whole part for themselves and excluded the locals, and the locals were consigned to these specific areas. I mean, it was classic apartheid. So the Kasbah is this very old part of the city that's like just this warren of laneways and stairs and houses. And it's a really fascinating place, and memorialized in the song by the Clash, "Rock the Kasbah." So he insisted. He was from there, and he insisted on like giving us a tour of the Kasbah, walking us around the Kasbah, and then that turned into a longer walk around Algiers. And he spent like
This is just some guy you met?
it's just the guy who sold us the pizza.
Oh wow!
And he walked with us for hours, showing all sorts of stuff, and like it was absolutely fascinating. And then later that night, I met up with him after dinner, and we went to a pastry place and chowed down on some French pastries.
Your Algerian buddy.
Yeah, he was just a super nice guy, just like a completely nice guy, whose only interest was like in showing us around his town and being welcoming.
We have a visitor. That's all good.
Excuse me.
We are, on the fly here at the Patty Pod, so we have random things that...
It's the exterminator.
Oh.
Rebecca, we want the exterminator? Hi. How are you? I don't think
We'll
so.
just put it a pause. We'll take a little pause here. We'll come back in just a minute for part 2.